Okay, hi. I had so much fun making a curation video last time that I'm going to make a new one right now. And the theme of this video is to deal with something I've already looked into and has vexed me for a while, and this is the bind database. So first thing, I'm going to pull up some information I've already got on bind database. This is the Elixir BioTools repository, and this keeps information about some databases or tools that exist. So there's this thing that I've seen in lots of places called bind, and this is not the same thing as binding DB. Anyway, so we've got like a publication back from, I think, 2003 on PubMed about the biomolecular interaction network database. And this was like a Canadian website. As you can see, it's like bind.ca. I don't think this website exists anymore, so this is completely gone. But we see bind popping up on all sorts of places, and bioregistry isn't just about keeping track of the stuff that's existing now, but it's also this kind of historical resource. So I think today is the day that we're finally going to add a record for bind, even though bind doesn't exist anymore and it's not really useful. So where did I kind of run into this? Maybe I can show. I was looking at EDAM again. You know, like last video, I tried to deal with the SCOP and I ran into all these other problems. But anyway, let's look at binds right now. So here we go. We've got bind a session number. So it's already in EDAM. It's actually in a couple other places too. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and create kind of a novel record. I'm actually not going to use the typical new prefix request workflow for this. But what I'm going to do is show you how I can pull in information from different places and sort of map some external records. So bind a session number. It's actually kind of hard to map this one directly. So anyway, let's just jump into it. I'll show you what we're going to do. So we're going to come into the bioregistry. We're going to go into our data folder and open up the bioregistry. Maybe first thing to do before we even get into this is like, let's go to the bioregistry itself. Let's check to see if like bind is inside already. So we've got binding DB and sugar bind, but no bind. So I think we're good. We can make a new prefix called bind. So let's just find a nice spot. It doesn't really matter where because we're going to use the lint function after. So we're going to go ahead and put bind right here. And so, yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is actually, rather than curating some information into bind, I'm going to directly add some mappings. So I know that EDAM is already got an entry for bind. So let's double check. Let's go back to this curation document. So with the bind a session number, that's 1129. So yeah, here we go. We've actually only done this. It's very simple. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up sort of a terminal. And I'm going to go into the bioregistry. I've already installed bioregistry in editable mode. So this should make it possible to run some of the alignment tools. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the alignment tool for EDAM. What this does is it goes through and it actually checks all of the mappings that exist and it backfills information about that when it exists. Now this alignment tool also maps based on the prefixes. However, we're not going to get anything interesting from EDAM. So all it's going to do is make an update based on this mapping that I just curated. So disregard some of this funny text. And let's jump back to PyCharm and we're going to see some, okay, first of all, it jumped around because it got linted. So let's look up bind again. Yeah, so we've got like EDAM information. So we've got our prefix, we've got a name that comes from it, a description. You know, we're really not done here. So like it turns out that we've got these data integrity tests. I'm going to run them directly from inside PyCharm. They're inside this tests directory. There's some sort of more reproducible ways to run this that don't involve using PyCharm using talks, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. It turns out though that like, you know, when we add a new prefix, we typically want to check that it's got like the minimum metadata standards. And yeah, so it turns out that we're already running into some problems with our tests because we're missing an example here. We're missing a description. We're missing a home page. Okay, actually this description thing, we're gonna sort of gloss over that. It's missing a home page. It's missing a name. All right, so it turns out that the bioregistry has a couple things hard-coded in. Maybe we're going to update these in the future to improve the way that the bioregistry gets its information, but we've got this get name function. And I'm going to jump through a couple hoops to like really where the get name function is implemented. It turns out that the get name function kind of goes into each of the meta registries and grab them. So I'm going to actually let it know that EDAM has some information about the name, if you've got an EDAM mapping. Same thing with get description. So I'm just going to add EDAM to the list. So this isn't really useful for curation, but this is a problem that I ran into live, so I'm going to fix it live. Let's go ahead and rerun those tests, and we're going to see that the name and the description test kind of pass now, because we actually do have a name and a description that are in EDAM. So here we go. We're going to see this one pass. Yeah, so we're missing the home page, so that's interesting. We're probably not going to get that from anywhere. Now I kind of want to look into a different resource, because I know that bind is shown up in lots of different places. So I'm going to go into the data folder, and then I'm actually going to go into external, and I'm going to go down to the Go registry, because I think Go actually references bind as well. Let's just like search around here and see if that's true or not. It's actually not true. Okay, so Go doesn't mention this, but I know that biocontext mentions bind. So why don't we like look into here really quick? Yeah, so we've got binding DB, and here we go, we've got bind. So this is interesting. So biocontext is actually not really a registry. It's actually just a context that's like one of these one-offs that's been used in various like repositories in the Obo Foundry community. And sometimes they actually just like would make their own prefixes and then like stick them in an identifiers.org URI, even though identifiers.org doesn't actually have this as a prefix. So this is interesting, right? Because it shows that there's like some some IRIs in the world that exist that look like this, but like they're not really registered and they don't really have like well-defined semantics. So anyway, I think we can already, we can gloss over that a little bit. We know that it's not correct, but like it's, URIs don't actually have to mean anything. They're pretty meaningless. I mean, the fact that they're like HTTP versus HTTPS, that doesn't really make a difference. It's just like a string. It could be anything. It doesn't even have to be like technically like a valid URI to be useful. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to run the alignment for biocontext. Oh, I typoed. We're going to run that, and we're going to see like another mapping kind of happens. So let's jump back to bioregistry. So kind of we had this biocontext thing pop up. Yeah, okay, so we're still missing like a home page and examples. I'm not going to go through the list. I think I think bind pops up in several other of these like historical external registries, but those are all going to get automatically aligned kind of later on the nightly build. I don't want to do them all like one at a time here. So let's see. We already know from kind of these papers, we know that the website was supposed to be bind.ca. So I'm actually just going to curate that manually, so I can put that in homepage. And then an example. I actually don't know what bind identifiers look like, so this is a problem. Let's kind of look through here and see if we can learn something about ones. And by the way, actually we're already here, so why don't we curate this publication to go with bind as well. There's this publications field, and inside it we can sort of say, hey look, here's like a PubMed identifier for our thing. And so we can kind of just keep that PubMed identifier. And there's like some post-processing scripts that backfill all the information about these publications, like the title, the year, the DOI, whatever. But it's nice to have that. You know what? I'm going to even go as far as to see it with the second one. It turns out that there's a second publication that's listed with this. So yeah, excuse the messy JSON, but this is going to get auto reformatted, so I'm not worried about it right now. Let's jump back to this. So let's read through these papers really quick. I'm actually just going to scroll through this paper to see if I see anything that looks kind of like a identifier. Okay, you know what? It turns out that this is actually on Oxford, so I'm going to follow that to the original text. Same thing with this other paper. Maybe I'm going to look at this picture first. Maybe this picture has some information about like a binding identifier. I don't think it does. So let's also follow this paper through to like the original text. And I'm going to do like some jumping around, like some fast, okay, so I have to download this as a PDF. So let's open that up. All right, now time to read through and look for stuff that looks like identifiers. Maybe looking at like a picture would be, so here's something about a data model. An object, an ID, bind, all fields in bind ID are optional. Okay, so they're talking about IDs. Maybe I missed something from a little bit before. No. Okay, so this looks like a UMLS diagram for like a database. So so look, here's this bind ID. This is GI ID. So this is some stuff from NCBI. There's interaction ID. So it doesn't look like there's any typing information on here. Might have been lucky and found out, excuse me, that that these were just integers, but I don't know if we can guess that from here. Okay, wow, this is crazy that this is all in an academic publication. Like, it's not super useful, in my opinion. Headline unique identifier, interesting. Okay, so I didn't see anything that looked relevant in this one. Let's try the second one. No, this one didn't look like I had a lot of information anyway. Okay, so yeah, I don't know how much information, how much effort I really want to put into looking for an example identifier for binds. So, you know, the next thing I'm going to do, typically you have to have a home page and examples. However, there's an exception for these curation rules, and that's for resources that are like dead and long gone. And bind for sure is dead and long gone. Now, the way that we kind of denote that is with a field called deprecated. And so that we're going to set to true. You assume if deprecated isn't mentioned that it's not deprecated. And this is going to say, hey, look, we did our best, but we really don't know like what's going on with this resource because it doesn't exist anymore. No one's really using it. You know, we can always go back and add extra information if we find it, but it's not necessary to like pass our unit tests. Yeah, so this is kind of like what we've got for bind. Maybe we could put a comment on here as well. I think it's comments with T. Maybe there needs to be an S. I think it's comments. So like this resource was originally published. Yeah, so I think that's good enough for this episode of INDRA Lab Curates. So let's do a couple tests, or let's clean up a little bit first. So first thing we need to do is let's put this on a branch. So like add bind. Oh, I forgot to bring the changes with me. Let's unstash those. Add bind, bring my changes. Okay, so let's double check what are the things that we changed. First, I made like some updates to this Python code. This isn't super relevant for the curation, but like it makes their life a little bit better. So let's like disregard that. So make a couple different commits. All right, and then like you notice that we ran these alignment functions. Actually, it removes this line needs to be curated from the curation sheet for biocontext and for you know, EDAM. So this is actually nice. So let's like commit this, and then I'm going to run the linting function just in case I made some typos somewhere. So do create. Let's put those all together. All right, and then let's run bioregistry went and figure out where I made some typos, if any. Okay, looks good. So by the way, we're gonna kind of like get some stuff moved around. I'm gonna undo this last commit, and I'm just gonna crunch them together. So yeah, here we go, create bind entry. And yeah, now we're ready to kind of publish the branch and make a pull request and check to see that unit tests are passing. So by the way, I'm not gonna run them again, but because we marked it as deprecated, I think those unit tests asking for the example is not gonna get applied anymore. So we should be all set. So we're gonna come to our pull request and make, so add new prefix bind. Yeah, so I'm gonna write a little description and then I think we're gonna be done here. All right, good. I think we're good. We're gonna create a pull request, and I guess we'll be finished. So like one other note, I think maybe this would be valuable to do is so like I'm gonna add it to do. I'm not gonna do it in this video, but like you know, run remaining alignment before merging this PR. So like it might be the case that some of the other external registries like fair sharing or RE3 data, or maybe like probably not Obo Foundry because it's not ontology, but like some of these other resources may have information about binds. It would be interesting and maybe helpful for potential reviewers to see that it's mapped to all these other places. So I'm going to do that kind of off screen and call this a video. But I'm going to go ahead and link to this pull request in the description of this video so you can actually follow up. And if you're really interested to talk about this, you can always join in on the chats like through GitHub. So thanks for listening. See you next time.